Well, I'm not gonna post this video for making students learn or teaching people. This is basically me studying a topic and me revising itself on the video and practicing to speak English. That's all. So this is not supposed to be a picture perfect video where I'm gonna show you the answer of a question or something. But basically this is my understanding, my breakdown of the topic. Okay, so for my understanding, and I don't care if you want to understand or don't understand, this is basically I'm doing for my own sake, so bear with me. So I'm going to talk about basically my question is, the question I'm going to answer is, what are the problems or what are the circumstances that led to the passing of the Government of India Act 1858. But before learning that, we got to understand that what were the conditions before passing of that act, like what were the reasons that was passed. So basically that is what we are trying to break down here. So let's start from the beginning only. East India Company, how it starts gaining power in India. So East India Company starts gaining its power through economic influences, starts getting strong and all. Okay, now I have written it in short. So basically when the Battle of Plassey happens, okay, the Nawab of Bengal was defeated through dark arts, like bribing the informant or something like that. So what happens is that East India Company gains a significant power over Bengal, although it may not be direct. They were acting through a dummy ruler and all, but still gained some power over Bengal. Then what happened in Buxa was there was a coalition of government, and there was a war between them and East India Company, where East India Company won that and started gaining more power over the territories, like the Diwani rights, right to collect revenue, which is basically we're talking about taxes and all. So East India Company was gaining power slowly and slowly. But what happened is that there was no proper structure between the East India Company. Okay, so that's why a lot of things happened. There was mismanagement, corruption, private individuals using resources for their own sake, personal gains and all, exploitation of people, resources. Now these kind of things led to the famine in 1770, where so many people died. Then this happened in Bengal. Okay, and due to this lack of control and all, the East India Company soon started facing a financial crisis, because think about it, there was a famine, there was a lack of resources, obviously, so East India Company is going to suffer. That's why East India Company does what? It asks for financial aid from the British government. Now it is important to know that East India Company is a separate company, it is a separate person, entity, okay, legal person. So it asks from British government for the first time for the financial aid, because of all the problems it's suffering from, basically the financial crisis. Now British government agrees to actually help East India Company, but British government interferes. It gives them condition that it is going to regulate themselves. That's why they enacted an act in their own parliament, that is in Britain, okay, regarding this regulation act. Now what this act does, it regulates the activities and functions of East India Company. Why? Obviously because of the mismanagement, corruption. So it is going to take a look over, like authority over East India Company. But it also allowed East India Company to keep territory, like these territories. It allowed East India Company to keep the territory. It's not taking away the territory, but rather it is just regulating through this act. Now what happened is that this was the first time that British cabinet started interfering in Indian affairs. Not direct though, through, like they are actually supervising over East India Company, and East India Company is supervising over Indian affairs. So it is a indirect control, but you get my point. Okay, and what another change happened here was that the governor of Bengal was the post there, but that was changed to Governor General of Bengal, and Warren Hastings was put in charge of it. And also one more key fact is that the first time Supreme Court in 1774 was also set up in Calcutta. So this is so far as regards to the regulating act. Now we will learn about what happened in the next year and why the Pitt's India Act was passed. Now we already talked about what happened in the regulating act and what was his aims and all, to improve the functioning activities of the company. But still, even after 11 years from that date, there were still problems prevalent, like corruption, poor administration, financial issues and all. And there was also conflicts between the Governor General of Bengal, that was set up its council, and the government of Britain. Okay, so that's why, to improve on this, to bring a order and control over this, the Pitt's India Act 1784 was enacted. Okay, Now, what are the main features? Main features are that the dual system was established. Both will be in control. East India Company also and British government will gain a direct control. And two things were established. That is, court of directors and board of control. Court of directors is basically it actually what is the point? Yeah. It is actually referring to the East India Company members. Okay, they are gonna look over the commercial issues and all, and whereas the board of control will have the political issues, military, and everything that is governing issues and everything. And the board of control also has these members: secretary of state, privy councillors, and also exchequer. It's basically a financial post or something. Councillor of exchequer. I may be wrong, but I'm just learning it. Top of like that. I'm not going into extra details. I'm just trying to gain a background here. Now, there were few charter acts which were important for what I'm going to talk about later. That is Charter Act of 1813, which started establishing Christian missionaries. Okay, they were allowed to set up in India. And Charter Act of 1833 also was very important because it lifted up every restriction on European immigration. So you can see by this act allowed the colonization of India, people coming from Europe settling down here, those kind of stuff. And Governor General of Bengal, which was the post earlier that was set up in the regulating act, it was changed to Governor General of India. So you can understand how the power was being centralized here. So this is very important here, because next we will talk about what are the issues, how it led, all these issues led to the 1857 revolt, and ultimately due to the revolt and all these issues that I'm going to talk about next will ultimately lead to the formation or the enactment of the new act by the parliament. Now basically, as we talked about how Christian missionaries were set up, now obviously people thought that it is a attack to their culture. Christian missionaries being set up, there was widespread rumors, that these missionaries were set up to, convert their religion and all. So there was a widespread of, sentiments that were getting harmed and all. And also setting up of English schools, then English, whatever the culture and all, people were, just against it, because it was they were seeing it was a harm of their own culture. Okay, also there was a lot of stuff that were going in military equipments and all. First of all, people were not allowed to keep a beard. Okay, so any religion kind of symbol like a a bala or a pug was not allowed in the army, those kind of stuff. And then it actually exceeded when the new rifle was introduced, the cartridge issue, where it was widespread rumors, it was made from the fat of cow and pork. So obviously harming the sentiments of both Muslim and Hindu, which ultimately led to the 1857 revolt, the first war of independence. And also there was a lot of problems too, like the company bringing out policies like Widow Remarriage Act and all. So it was seen as back then it was seen as like a harming of culture and all. And also they were taking over the powers of territories which were ruled by the princely states and all. They were taking it forcefully or indirectly cutting on finances and all. So obviously people were really unhappy with the policies. Now obviously we know that the company was also in power, and also the British government, because this dual government was not really being fruitful. Okay, so the issues were that there was a large inconvenience and there was a large complex issues that was going on, and this first war actually laid the death of this whole rule of East India Company. That's why the Government of India Act 1858 was passed. The goal was to enact a better law which will gain more control over it, and which will satisfy people. Okay, more stable power. The main point is that the power that was transferred from the both dual system to British Crown alone. British government was taking the government alone. East India Company's power was brought to end. That is, now so what was the question that I'm answering here? The question was, what are the reasons or circumstances that led to the passing of Government of India Act 1858? So as we learned the history of it, so we can now classify, how all these laws that was brought up, it still didn't resolve the issue of how, the power was inconvenient. There was corruption, there were lack of resources of people and all, mismanagement. Even though the new acts was enacted, the issues did not actually resolve, but people were really unhappy with what they're doing. They were trying to centralize power, they were trying to set up immigration things and all. People thought that it was harm to the religion, and ultimately this 1857 revolt actually led to the death of the East India Company. Sorry for that. Yeah, never mind that. So those were the key reasons. So the key reasons can be that the first of all, the rule was there was mismanagement, corruption, okay, then improper management of resources, okay, then the war, there was actually people were dissatisfied, military was dissatisfied, there was harm of sentiments and all, Christian missionaries, then no limits on European immigration and all, then the British, how they're taking territories forcefully, they're trying to centralize the powers, and how even though the dual system did not lead to any fruitful supervision and everything, it led to more inconvenience and complexity, and the first war happened. That's why this new act was enacted to improve all these conditions. The power was transferred from East India Company to the British Crown alone. That is the whole answer of it. Now I don't know if anybody is going to really see my video or even gonna find it helpful, but I'm still gonna credit from where I prepared my answer. I actually went over a few YouTube videos too, obviously, for getting the reference of it, and also my book. So yeah, book. So that is this is what I wrote down here. This is basically for my own understanding only, but if you find it helpful, leave a comment, and if my information was wrong in any way, please let me know in the comment, because I'm open here for corrections. I'm trying to learn it for my own semester, but if I have made any mistake, let me know, because that will ultimately help me only. Thank you.